I'm Kara Hart with Checkoff Chats, a content partnership with the United Soybean Board on Brownfield. Joining me, I have Lucas Lentsch, the United Soybean Board CEO. Lucas, thanks for joining me today, and we're going to talk a little bit more about you. I know you've been really busy since stepping into this new role of yours. You've been traveling all across the country, meeting with United Soybean Boards in almost a dozen states.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about your travels and where you went and
Sure.
those visits.
Well, Kara, first off, thank you for the opportunity to visit with you today on Checkoff Chats. When I think about working for the United Soybean Board, it's always been about the farmer. And nothing brings me closer to agriculture than face-to-face time on the farm with our farmer board of directors. They're all volunteers, and they show up for years of service. Literally, they can serve at least three-year terms. And to get to know them over the course of 9 years is an incredible privilege in the boardroom, but to get to meet them on their turf, there's nothing that replaces on-farm time, whether that's at the kitchen table in the machine shed or out running in the buddy seat on the tractor. So pretty fun.
Tell me, what states did you visit?
I was fortunate. I was able to route myself through Illinois, Iowa, Wisconsin, Minnesota, up through the Dakotas and down to Nebraska, Kansas, reached out to Colorado, down through Kansas, Oklahoma, and back home through Missouri on this first run.
So what kind of things did you see when you went to the farm? Was it all planting?
It felt like at first I was under a rain cloud for most of the visit, and it's just the way it worked out. A lot of moisture was coming in towards the end of April, early May here. The time, though, to talk about the spring crop going in or the challenges on the farm to say that you've been on one farm, you've truly just been on one farm. The commonalities, they plant a crop and they harvest it, but everything in between is negotiable in terms of how they do it and why they do it the way they do. And so spending that time with our stakeholders, I think, taught me a great deal.
Can you share some more personal experiences that you had, some of those connections that you made visiting some of those farmers? And I know I've known you for a while from your South Dakota days,
sure.
But I'm sure probably seeing some familiar faces, it sounds like, on your trip too.
Yeah, some of the unexpected opportunities happened even in the state of Minnesota. Gene Stuhl, who is a director of ours, his granddaughter, Lauren Stuhl, was recently elected FFA president as a state officer in her state, and had a chance to go into her hometown school and visit with her ag class and talk about the United Soybean Board, talk about agriculture. More importantly, though, asking the young students to think about careers in food and agriculture. And I found that to be fascinating, to hear what was on their minds and have that unexpected conversation. And I think as I look down throughout all of the visits down that road of travel here recently, the opportunity to meet and convene with neighbors. In some cases, there were folks who weren't on the board of directors, but they were there for a visit, hearing what was on their thoughts. It was fantastic. And it's important for us not to make the assumption that people know what Checkoff is doing. And so the fact that I had a chance to visit with people who weren't necessarily on the board really opened the dialogue for me. I was fortunate, had a chance to swing by because it was up in my home country. Josh Gackel is the president of American Soybean Association, so I figured, what the heck, I'm right on the road, so I had a chance to even check in with the chair of ASA, which was great.
Always good to see familiar faces
Yeah.
and meet some new ones along the way, isn't it?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
So what has the journey taught you about your new role here at the United Soybean Board?
It's one thing to sign up for this role and work for a board of directors and have a staff to work with and the industry relationships. Along that travel was also getting to know the QSSBs, or what we call the Qualified State Soybean Boards. I was able to visit 8 of their locations. And I'm just proud of the fact that we're all Checkoff working on behalf of soy farmers. Soybean producers are out there doing the hard work, but the bedrock of promotion, every farmer is first and foremost a local zip code, and nobody serves that better than the QSSBs. Those Qualified State Soybean Boards are working hard on farmers' behalf. So seeing that in action was great for me, and understanding how we fit at a domestic and even international level really connected the dots. But overarching all of that is that our farmers are making major investments every year, and our job, the privilege that we all have in the checkoff system, is to go to work for them to ensure there's value in the supply chain waiting for them at this year's harvest, next year's harvest, and the years after that. And not only domestically but internationally, and to have that kind of conviction, not only in my mind but on my heart coming out of that, is really important.
On the heels of Memorial Day and with your experience as a commanding officer with the Army National Guard, what similarities do you see between farmers and the servicemen and women of our country?
Well, I have two thoughts. Food security is national security. What are farmers and ranchers on behalf of all of agriculture, what they do on their farms to bring food not only to the animals that we feed, but to the nutrition, to the tables that we consume, to the value-add energy aspects of our renewable fuels, all the way through to the innovation of industrial and commercial products. I'm just so thankful that they do what they do, and they care for their land, and they create the crops and the products and the livestock that they do, so that we have this food security. A fed nation clearly is a secure nation. The other part of that is as I think about my time overseas, I lived in a world of commander's intent. I was a captain and I worked for a lieutenant colonel, and the commander's intent he handed down from the colonel that he worked for, who worked for the general. All of that flowed through to me as a commander out in the unit. Today I would call that farmer's intent. That level of leadership and guidance that I have at the day in and day out work of my office, I'm proud to focus in on farmers' intent. What is their intent for Checkoff, and bringing that intent to life? That's the job that I have.
Lucas, thanks for joining us. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kara Hart with Checkoff Chats, a content partnership with the United Soybean Board on Brownfield.